Hello, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. So, what are the 9 most terrifying words in the English language? Just like anything on TV or anything that's been fed to us over the years, so are the quotes also to be taken with a pinch of salt. This one, however, has been caught on camera, so it's true.
I think you all know that I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Now, this is a little bit rich coming from the government, the top of the government at the time, Ronald Reagan, the President of the United States, who was always supposedly for the small government, which I agree with. The government's supposed to be there for essential services, not to grow into this huge conglomerate that when you hear people say, we need government to do this, we need government to do that, government really needs to do very little and take their hands off the free market for most part and keep it to the absolute essential services, in my humble opinion. Why am I saying this? Well, everything that governments has ever tried to uh, work on and help people with almost never came as a benefit to us, the people. You know, the war on terror never ends. The war on poverty never ended. The war on drugs, as soon as it was declared, just like every other war in that sense, never ended. They never won that war. It was just designed to continue on going. But that's once again going a little bit too deep. What I'm talking about in this particular video is how government is trying to help house affordability. How the government are here and they're here to help us make housing more affordable to everyone. So you could call it a war on housing affordability. Guess what? It was designed not to help you. It was designed to keep the prices up and get you up and in, up to your eyeballs into the mortgage debt, and help their buddy bankers keep you there forever, perpetually. May sound a little bit negative, but it is. This next report from ABC's The Business says it all. They've done a really good job.
Winning the first home buyer lottery, but claimed the new government scheme could make it harder for new buyers.
When states have implemented these kind of schemes before, that they've really pushed up prices at the bottom end.
Now, this next report, honestly, I could interrupt it every 5 seconds and make a point, and I'm sure many of you will be making comments in the description below or in the section below for comments, because it'll be very evident how silly this scheme is, how it was absolutely designed to fail. It was absolutely designed to give people a little bit of a boost, shot in the arm, as far as the confidence, thinking that this will keep the prices up to get us in once again exactly where they want us. I don't think it's going to work. Like I said, 2020 is the year when Australian housing has and meets the reality. And the reality of the situation is that it's a second most overvalued asset class in the world, housing in the world, beyond Hong Kong, I believe. But there's no reason for it to be. Hong Kong was, at least up until now, is a completely different beast, and there's a reason why their prices are through the roof. Here in Australia, we have plenty of land, we have resources, and there's absolutely no need or reason for these prices to be so high.
A $500 million scheme will help 10,000 first home buyers get into the market with a smaller deposit than they'd otherwise need. Buyers struggling to scrape together the standard 20% deposit will be able to secure a loan with just 5%, and taxpayers will underwrite the gap. Despite recent falls, East Coast house prices are on the rise again, and there are concerns the scheme may worsen the affordability crisis. Daniel Ziffer reports.
785 bid.
The Australian dream, a home of your own, is getting further away.
Happy to take 5 more.
The government is hoping a $500 million scheme will help.
But they've got their first leg on the first rung of the ladder.
At 55 here.
Experts aren't so sure.
But ultimately, it's going to be pretty ineffective.
Full silence.
My overriding fear is that this is a band-aid for a very big problem that we have.
Going.
This is a small scheme that will not really counteract the inflationary impact of what they're doing in tax policy.
It's sold.
The First Home Loan Deposit Scheme allows buyers to secure a loan with a deposit of just 5%. Lenders generally insist on 20%, and charge what's known as lender's mortgage insurance to cover the risk if buyers have smaller deposits.
It's essentially a lottery for those that do get access to this scheme. It allows them to borrow more without having to pay lender's mortgage insurance, saving them up to $10,000.
This man got it right. That's exactly what it is. Listen.
It's essentially a lottery for those that do get access to this scheme. It allows them to borrow more without having to pay lender's mortgage insurance, saving them up to $10,000.
The scheme sees taxpayers underwriting the deposit gap. There are a few catches. You have to earn less than $125,000 for singles. Couples can earn up to $200,000 together, but neither can have bought a property before. And there's a cap on how much the properties can cost, depending on where you are across Australia.
So let's have a look at these properties and what they, in New South Wales, $700,000 is the cap, not to mention all the other conditions and not to mention that there's only so many of these available and you'll be part of the lottery where you'll be determined whether you can access this or not, providing again that you've met all the criteria, which one is me living in Sydney. $700,000 can buy you a squat. Maybe a unit which you again don't want to get into because there's so many issues. It's probably just going to push up the prices of the units, some of them, because again most people won't qualify for it. So it's just ridiculous. It's just something, it's insane. It's something that it's just not going to work. It's clear to everybody, and everybody in this article is actually talking about it. It's not something that they are beating around the bush. It's a lottery and it won't work. Bottom line is.
In the capital cities, none of the loans are big enough to go near the median house price. The Grattan Institute's Brendan Coates says limiting the scheme to just 10,000 applications, about 1 in 10 first home buyers, means it won't make a difference. But expanding it could be counterproductive.
We know from experience when states have implemented these kind of schemes before that they've really pushed up prices at the bottom end. So first home buyers have been competing for a limited number of homes.
Lobbyists for affordable housing say what's preventing change is an uncomfortable political truth. Our housing is some of the most stratospherically expensive on the globe, and getting more first-time buyers into homes involves changing taxes and benefits that keep those prices high.
The federal government put $12 billion in the pockets of investors for negative gearing and capital gains tax exemptions each year, and that means investors can outbid home buyers at auctions.
Kate Colvin says the skyrocketing price of housing is the key issue.
This scheme will make it a little easier for home buyers to bring forward a purchase if they've already saved for a deposit. But the real problem that they face is the cost of the homes that they're buying.
Deloitte Access Economics' Nikki Hutley says schemes like this have worked in some instances, such as the Indigenous community, but they're problematic.
I think it is a big risk to taxpayers. I mean, this is why lender's mortgage insurance exists for standard home loans, and it's also why most of the banks require a 20% deposit.
Lender's mortgage insurance protects the bank, not the homeowner. And the scheme essentially sanctions 95% home loans for people on lower incomes.
That prudence that we've had has held us in good stead. We don't want to do anything that undermines the, that strength that we have in our banking system, and from both a macro perspective for the economy as a whole, but obviously also for individuals.
This scheme has a certain seductive appeal. It sounds like it's going to help first home buyers when really it's not going to make much difference.
Seductive appeal, that's exactly what I was saying. This man is a very smart man, in my opinion. Really, honestly, that's all it's going to do, create some sort of a hype and uplift to the sentiment up until January, February, when people realized that the scheme did nothing. If anything, pushed the bottom end prices a little bit up, and then it'll be a fizzer.
This scheme has a certain seductive appeal. It sounds like it's going to help first home buyers when really it's not going to make much difference.
Meaning more people still searching for a place to call home.
This is not a financial advice, same as every one of my other videos. I have a day job and it's not in finance or financial advice or economics for that matter, but honestly, I've done it. Don't buy their lies. Ignore them. The more people ignore them, the less their system works, the more the system comes back to where it should be. The words that come to mind is free market, real supply and demand, not an inflated speculative bubble. And by the way, parting words for this video is that I didn't know that auctions are the big thing in Australia alone, as far as most of the Western countries and developed countries, that there's this obsession about auctions. I always thought it was impossible to buy uh, a property at the auction, because what you had to do is that you had to do all the checks about the property, building reports, pest inspections, all of the other council checks, and that costs money. And then you go, and everyone's done those on their own accord for their own cost. And so all these people and bidders now have spent all this money. They've got skin in the game, and they are more inclined to want to get this property at any cost, which is why you see ridiculous bidding at auctions, because you've done all the checks, it suits what you want. You thought it was going to go for $1 million. Next thing you know, the next person next to you is bidding it up like there's no tomorrow, and then you start getting a little bit angry and you're losing your cool, and you end up paying 1.1, 1.2, which is like 20% more than what you initially potentially wanted to pay for it, and it gets you in trouble. It is an Australian insane obsession. And the more people who see it for what it is, the better it's going to be for everyone in the long run. They're not your friends, they just want your money. Actually, they don't even want your money, they want you to get in debt up to your eyeballs and hand over your future. And ultimately, really, freedom. They all have a job to do, so your job is, what I always advocate, is to just think. Fear of missing out, you will not miss out. Just sit on the sidelines at the moment, not financial advice. I know I am.